Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another video, or welcome to the first video if this is the first one you're watching, on the Cobalt SS Tuck and Shave project. As some of you can tell, I'm in a little bit of a different environment than I usually am, not in the shop today. Well, that's because I realized that iMovie does not keep videos in the app itself after you've uploaded them to create a video. Turns out they're linked to the gallery, and I deleted those clips that I had started for this video from my gallery. And it was a while back, so it's not in my deleted folder, so I'm just kind of out of luck there. So I'm gonna explain a little bit of what I did. I have a lot of pictures and some video that I'll overlay to help explain what I did. So bear with me here. I'm gonna do my best to explain and show you guys what I did, so we'll see how this goes. So one of the first things I did that I don't believe I showed in the last video was extending the headlight harness. So I extended that and I went to install it in the car because I already have plenty of wires going through the hole that leads to the inside of the car. What I decided to do on this connector, because of the fact that there weren't too many wires and because they're so unique, I decided to unpin the connector itself. Now you'll see in this picture there are some green bars, some rails that go across the connector. Those are what lock the pins in. So once you remove those, you'll be able to pull the pins out fairly easily. It takes a little bit of force, but you can get the pins out. And from there, once I got all them removed, I fished them through into the inside of the car and reconnected them on the other side. Once that was complete and installed onto the fuse box, I ran the wire loom, which is what you'll see in the next picture. I believe it was a 1-inch diameter split wire loom that I put on there. Installed a couple self-tapping screws on some clips to hold it in place, as well as some zip ties along the length of that split loom. I have them split into two separate looms. All the wires that go to one of the ECU connectors I kept in one loom, and then I kept all of the everything coming from the fuse box into different components of the car, the engine harness, I kept those in another loom. That way it could separate the data wires from just the normal power wires. Hopefully this will prevent any interference coming from any of the power cables. Another thing I did on that headlight harness was swap out the actual headlight plugs to Deutsch connectors. Those are the gray ones you'll see in the next picture. On the right of this picture, you'll see a black connector. That's the factory connector that comes with the headlight harness. On one of them, I had some pretty big corrosion issues, which was causing a short in one of the headlights. So years ago, I did what you see what's on the left, those red connectors that were just individual push connectors, quick disconnects. And as you can see, those are old and a bit outdated. Probably not the best route to go, but it worked for the time. But these gray connectors are a little bit pricey, but you get a really strong and secure construction with them. They have the gray connector itself, a grommet, orange grommet that goes around the edge, and a wedge lock, which is the orange piece that's the face of this connector, that locks everything in place. And when you want to take it apart, you have to take out the wedge lock, and then that'll give you access to pulling the pins out. It's just a really secure connector and well worth the money for a project like this, especially where the headlights are going to be, exposed a little bit to the elements, and they could get wet and they're in the heat. So it's just a really good option there. And the last thing that I had done that I had in this video was the ECU mount. I had a piece of flat bar laying around the house, so I grabbed that and basically bent it by hand until it fit exactly where I wanted to mount the ECU to the frame. I used the same self-tapping screws to tap in from the bottom of the ECU straight through the frame, as well as a bolt to mount the ECU to the bracket, and then another self-tapping screw to mount the bracket to the frame itself. And with all of those screws in place and the bolt, the thing's going nowhere. So I have had a few questions about it being as low as it is. I might have addressed this in one of the last videos, but the ECU is at the same height as the opening of the intake box. So I figured if any water gets in there, I'm gonna have bigger issues anyways. And I've ran that open air box for a while, and the only time I had any issue was when my splash guard got ripped out. And during that week, while I was waiting for a new one to come in, it rained pretty hard and the engine started sucking up some water. But luckily I made it home that day and ran the car a little bit, didn't have any issues, did an oil change right away, checked all the plugs and everything. It turned out all right. So as long as the splash guard's there, we should be all right with the ECU. Plus they are waterproof connectors, or water resistant at least. So it should be all good. So I'm gonna do a little bit of jumping around. I do have some clips that I did still have from the last video, so I'm gonna insert those here. A little bit of walking around, a little bit more explaining of what I've done, and then we'll see you back here. So I just started putting back together the old dash here. As you can see, this is where the fuse box went. It is not necessarily the straightest or cleanest looking thing, but there's no extra wires. I mean, obviously this is some stuff that I still have to tuck up underneath and really clean up those wiring there for the air pressure gauges. But this is kind of how it's gonna look. I mean, it's already coming together. Got the radio in, HVAC controls, glove box, of course the actual inner dash piece there with our AC ducts. And man, it's looking a lot better already. Looking a lot cleaner. Everything's tucked underneath. The reason this is kind of crooked, I guess, it just doesn't look the best, is because there's so much wiring back there that's just getting stuffed. I did make sure that nothing was really had the potential to ground out or mess anything up, which would cause some pretty big issues. And everything looks pretty good for the most part. I mean, we're all together making some progress. One of the main things that I saw that was happening when I started the car, is kind of worrisome, was the fact that there is a massive oil leak down there. So I decided to start from the top, see if there was anything that was leaking. And sure enough, I think this used to have the bracket for the boost bypass valve, as well as the evap solenoid. And so I had loosened these bolts and kept this plate loose. Well, because of that, we were getting oil leaking at the bottom. It was leaking out of the bottom there, dripping onto the trans and all the way to the back and down to the bottom. So I would say probably the easiest oil leak fix I've ever had. And we're back in business. All right, don't mind the squeak. Dash is all put together. Got the pillars back on. I need to rewrap those. Boost gauge is on. All the buttons down here work. All of these buttons work and should probably be replaced. HVAC, everything's functional. Good to go. Up front, I got my headlight harnesses ran. I got some new connectors here for the headlights. Swapped out to the Deutsch connectors to make it match. This is our high beam wire. I think that's the low beam. These here, that's gonna be for the fog light. I believe this connector was for the horn. There's another sensor I'm gonna leave on there. I believe it's an ambient temperature, something like that. That's gonna stay. But got all my Morimoto HID equipment runs all the way across and out this side. This is the other ballast. And it's a relay. Then our connectors up here that plug into the headlight. Happy with how it's turned out. I'm gonna make a separate video. Kind of goofed. A nice little crack right there on my windshield. I'm gonna try to repair that. but that's what we got. As you can see in those clips, the car is running great. I still have my check engine light. I have a couple lights on the dash that were on there before. I did remove ABS, so I have the ABS light on. But overall, as far as performance, the car hasn't entered any limp modes and hasn't given any extra signs of anything being wrong. So for having deleted all that stuff, for having cut up all the wires and extended and done everything that we did, I'd say it's a pretty good success. It's pretty much the end of the wire tuck portion of this project. So from here, we're gonna move on into tucking more things that aren't related to wiring, such as the coolant reservoir, hopefully get down on the ABS module, try to figure out a way to remove that. And we'll just continue, just keep on pushing. So thanks for bearing with me for this video. Sorry it's a little bit different. Hopefully it worked out and hopefully it was a little bit bearable. Again, I appreciate it. You guys take care, be safe, and we'll see you in the next one.